Greetings, fellow travelers, vagrants, explorers, wildlanders, and welcome to the Retro Wildlands. My name is Nomad, and this is my gaming podcast where I like to share my thoughts and experiences with a video game that I've discovered or rediscovered while roaming the gaming wildlands. Thank you for joining us around the campfire, my friends. As a lifelong gamer, I've had the pleasure of playing through and experiencing a lot up to this point in my life, and today, I'm excited to talk about how one of those experiences has finally come full circle for me. When it comes to the experiences that really stuck with me over the years, the Resident Evil series is pretty high up on that list. Resident Evil has been with me for a long time. I still remember what it felt like playing the original game with my stepdad all those years ago. We were unsure of what we were walking into. The fixed camera angles, the silence, the dread. That sense that something was always just around the corner, waiting for us. Over the years, the series has changed. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. While the series was steeped heavily in survival horror spooks and scares, it leaned into the action side of things over time, stepped away from horror, came back to it, and overall reinvented itself more than once. But now, we have Resident Evil Requiem, a game that doesn't just move forward, but also looks back at the same time. It's a game that feels like it's trying to pull everything together. The horror, the action, the history, the identity of what Resident Evil has been over the years, and what it's trying to be moving forward. It's a tall order, and depending on who you ask, the game is either a massive success in that area, or it ultimately failed to pull off the hat trick and turned into a game with almost no unique identity. Now, what do I think? Well, after spending 4 straight days with Requiem and doing just about everything the game has to offer, I have to say, I get both sides of the argument. And while some would argue Requiem also leaned a little too much into nostalgia to be its own thing, I personally felt that the developers hit the sweet spot. It wasn't just that we revisit familiar places in Requiem, it's a culmination of everything that's come before. And that includes the locations and even the characters that I've grown up with. Add in new characters, new game mechanics, and gameplay that toes the line of tonal whiplash, and you've got an experience you won't soon forget. And as a die-hard Resident Evil fan, I felt like this experience was made just for me. My friends, I am very eager to tell you about this game today, and I hope you're ready as well. A quick note though before we begin, while I'll be sprinkling in my thoughts on the game as well as playing some select audio from the game itself, there is nothing in the show that I would consider to be a story spoiler, and I'll only be speaking to plot elements and things that were made known during the game's development or in the several trailers that have released for the game. So, that said, scoot a little bit closer to the fire, my friends. You have no reason not to listen to my story today, and I promise it'll be one that you won't soon forget. Gaming Wildlands Expedition Entry 6. Game: Resident Evil Requiem. System: PlayStation 5. Originally completed March 3rd, 2026. Resident Evil Requiem, at its core, is a story about what comes after. From the initial viral outbreak in the Spencer Mansion, to the destruction of Raccoon City, to the ongoing fight to suppress the outbreak of bioorganic creatures and other viral weapons. Requiem's story seems to take place in the silence that comes after it all. And while there's a certain stillness in the beginning, the weight of past events, buried truths, and the kind of damage that doesn't stay contained crops up again and again, no matter how many times it's covered up. Requiem has us playing as two main characters. Introduced first is Grace Ashcroft. New to the Resident Evil series, Grace is a technical analyst working for the FBI, and we learn early on that she's the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft. Resident Evil veterans may recognize Alyssa, as she was one of the playable characters from Resident Evil Outbreak, the cooperative online game back on the PlayStation 2. I love that Capcom acknowledges that game in this way, and in Requiem, it's confirmed that Alyssa made it out of Raccoon City alive during the outbreak. Grace is a smart gal. She's pretty timid, shy, and easily frightened. When the game begins, Grace is tasked with investigating a series of mysterious deaths, seemingly involving some sort of infection. Her FBI superior asks her to head to a city called Wrenwood, which is near the destroyed remains of Raccoon City, to investigate another mysterious death related to the case. Wrenwood has special meaning for Grace, as we also learn that Alyssa was murdered there 8 years prior.
If this is about the report you asked for yesterday, it'll be ready in 2 days, tops.
Put a hold on that for now. We found another body. One that exhibits the same pathology as the others we've been investigating. Now, I need a good technical analyst on this.
Okay.
I need your eyes on the crime scene. The Wrenwood Hotel. Look, I know that's where your mother was murdered. And I know it'll be upsetting for you. Alyssa died 8 years ago. Perhaps it's time for you to face the past. Confront that fear head on. Grace, I won't force you to go. But do you think you can do this for me? Investigate that crime scene and report back to me with your findings. That's all for now.
Why it is that FBI leadership saw it appropriate to send Grace, given her past trauma, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but we do need to move the plot forward anyway, I guess. Or maybe they saw something in Grace and wanted to give her an opportunity to move past the one thing still holding her back. Either way, Grace heads to Wrenwood in hopes of uncovering the truth behind the seemingly new biological threat. Now that we've been introduced to Grace, let's talk about our second playable character, Leon S. Kennedy. Leon has been with the series since the beginning and has spent his entire adult life in the fight against bioweapons and those who create them. Originally a rookie cop who arrived in Raccoon City during the outbreak on his very first day on the force, Leon eventually went on to work for the government, becoming one of their best field agents. Leon is much older in Requiem, and if I'm remembering right, the game's events take place in 2026, and that puts Leon at 49 years of age. Leon isn't just an older version of himself now, but much wiser and more seasoned. While his trademark sarcasm and humor endure, he's a man worn by decades of fighting. Currently a member of the DSO, or the Division of Security Operations, Leon is also investigating the same strange deaths as Grace. We learn that all the victims of this mysterious affliction are immediately recognizable, as they have a series of black blotches all over their skin. Worse than that, all of the victims were identified as survivors of the Raccoon City T-virus outbreak back in 1998. Leon himself was a survivor, so we immediately start to wonder what it all means. When we first meet Leon, we can tell this is something that's on his mind as well.
Talk to me. Is this one like the others?
Well, the same black blotches.
And it's not post-mortem lividity.
No. No, this is different. That's 6 now. 6 survivors of Raccoon City, all dead from the same thing.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. No, it's not.
But I have something for you. The team has settled on a person of interest. Someone with ties to Umbrella. Victor Gideon.
Who is he?
A former T-virus researcher. Hey, I just got a report of a missing police officer. It might be unrelated, but he disappeared near where the 5th body was found. You there, Leon?
Yeah. I'm here.
You okay?
Some of the edges. Check it out.
When we look at the overall gameplay experience Resident Evil Requiem brings to the table, it plays like a careful balancing act between the series' past and present. During the game's development, Capcom made it clear that Grace's gameplay sections and Leon's, while similar in some ways, would be fundamentally different. While you have the option to change the camera view between third-person and first-person perspectives, playing as Grace puts players in the first-person perspective. Her sections of the game are what I like to describe as classic survival horror. Early in the game, Grace works her way through the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, a sort of sanatorium that's been around for many, many years. The location is very reminiscent of the Spencer Mansion in the very first Resident Evil. While playing as Grace, there's exploration at its core, which is methodical, sometimes slow, and always a little uneasy. You're moving through interconnected spaces, unlocking new paths, doubling back, and piecing things together as you go. Resources and ammunition are limited. Inventory management matters, and every decision, whether it's opening a door or firing a shot, feels like it carries immense weight. Combat is there, but it is not the focus. Not in the way some of the more action-heavy entries leaned into it. Here, while playing as Grace, survival comes first. Positioning, awareness, and restraint are often more important than pulling the trigger. This gameplay style also leans into Grace as a character. While she is trained in the use of firearms, she is just an analyst after all, and not at all a field agent. You can see that clearly in the way that Grace moves, how she talks, the way she holds her weapon, and how she navigates her environment. As Grace moves throughout the Rhodes Hill Care Center, it's unclear why she's there in the first place. But it is clear that Grace is not alone. Featured heavily in game trailers leading up to the release, we see Grace being pursued by a tall, monstrous creature known only as the Girl. Acting as a stalker-type enemy, the Girl will seek out and pursue Grace. Grace has no means to defend herself, but we do learn that the Girl cannot stand the light. Knowing this, the player must navigate around the Girl and stay hidden, or remain in the light for protection. Which works out pretty well for the most part. so long as the lights don't go out. As Grace moves through the care center, she'll also discover that the staff working there have all become infected and are now zombies wandering the halls. But Requiem puts an interesting twist on the zombies this time around. They aren't mindlessly shambling around looking to eat and devour anyone unlucky enough to be caught in their clutches. They somehow retain bits of their former selves. We can see this in how they move, act, and sometimes even speak. The cleaning lady, for instance, will continue to mindlessly clean up messes and obsess over broken objects or pools of blood. A night watchman in charge of hallway lighting will make sure that the lights stay off. A chef who still feels the need to chop meat with his enormous cleaver, desperate to prepare the next feast. I read that there are over 100 unique zombies in the game, and each one of them has their own sort of personality, which can create some fun encounters. Fun as in unpredictable and psychologically unsettling, I should say. While all of this seems like a novelty, it's all in service of the gameplay, requiring you to hold back, observe, and understand the creature in front of you before you proceed forward. Again, Grace's options for survival are limited, so understanding what you're up against and how you can approach a situation based on your available resources is the key to survival. While the pacing here can be slow, I found playing as Grace to be an absolute blast. I know a lot of that has to do with my love for old school survival horror, but I thought her sections were designed well for the most part. The tension was palpable, and the fun I had was in trying to sneak around or using my limited resources creatively to overcome an enemy or clear a path. I felt as vulnerable as Grace felt, and I attached myself to her almost immediately. When I defeated an enemy, I grinned in triumph. When I barely made it out of a situation alive, I sighed out loud with actual relief. And the best part, there's no one path you have to take or a specific set of actions you need to do in order to ensure your survival every time. It really is all on you. If you take your time and really think about the moves that you make, you'll get a lot out of Grace's gameplay. Now, there is one part of Grace's gameplay that I did find a little too video gamey, however. In past Resident Evils, players would have the ability to scavenge items that they could combine together to craft other items such as healing medicine, ammo, and other tools for survival. That does exist in Grace's gameplay, but it requires the use of a blood collector. I know, it's as weird as it sounds. Using this blood collector, players can gather up puddles of infected blood found all over the place or left behind by a creature that you take out. You then combine the blood with scrap materials you find and, somehow, presto, you have more handgun ammo or maybe a makeshift knife. It's a really strange mechanic. I mean, don't get me wrong, it works for what it is. Having a limited supply of scrap materials and a limited supply of blood means you have to be strategic about what you create for yourself, but even then, this mechanic was a little weird, even for me. Still, Grace Ashcroft is a fantastic addition to the Resident Evil series, and her survival-focused gameplay really scratched me where I itched. I began to really care for Grace as a person, and I genuinely wanted her to survive. even if it seemed like the whole world wanted her dead.
Sorry, officer. What's wrong?
Something stung me.
Are you okay? What do I do? Come on! I'm stuck! Oh, wait! What are you doing?
Enter Leon Kennedy. Soon after the game's initial opening, we see Leon hot on Victor Gideon's trail. While Grace's gameplay sections are survival-focused with a horror overlay, Leon's sections are all about action, and his opening segment leans into that in a fantastic way as things go wrong for him almost immediately, and he'll need to call back on his decades of experience to see things through. As Leon hits the streets of Renwood, things take a horrible turn for the worst as the streets become overrun with the undead.
Leon, what's your sit rep?
I'm going after Victor.
Don't do anything stupid.
Me? Never.
Whoa. Hey, what the hell, lady?
Help me!
You okay? What are you doing?
While you can change the perspective here if you want, Leon's sections are played in third person, which is much more attuned to the action-oriented gameplay the series is known for. In this opening segment, Victor has infected multiple citizens, turning them into zombies. Leon needs to make his way after Victor before he escapes, dispatching or avoiding the undead that now swarm the streets. This scene right here is a nice little callback to the origins of the Raccoon City outbreak and is one of my favorite moments in the entire game. While controlling Leon, you'll notice right away that he's older and more hardened now. He's been through the outbreaks, the cover-ups, the things most people in this world never even see, and you feel that experience the moment you step into his shoes. Leon's movement is more controlled, more deliberate. There's a sort of confidence in his steps, not recklessness or enthusiastic youth. And the same goes with his usage of firearms and a new tool that Leon brings to the table, a hatchet. Working your way through the streets of Renwood as Leon after all of these years put a genuine smile on my face. I felt powerful. I felt invincible. I damn near felt like a kid again. Watch out, you zombie assholes. Daddy's home. While you still need to be mindful of your resources and take your time, Leon's section of play are very reminiscent of the action-focused games in the Resident Evil series, specifically mainline entries 4, 5, and 6. Leon's firearms are punchy and ammo is typically in good supply. Melee attacks return here and are possible on stunned enemies, so get ready to use Leon's meaty legs for some swift and powerful kicks. Taking from the knife parry mechanic featured in the Resident Evil 4 remake, Leon can parry attacks with the hatchet that he carries with him. This hatchet, man, god damn. If you can time the button press just right, you can parry just about any attack or grab an enemy throws at you. Not only do you get to hear a satisfying ka-chink when you land a parry, but it leaves your enemies wide open to some brutal follow-up attacks. The best part about the hatchet is that while it does have endurance and could eventually become useless if used too much, you can always recharge its durability by sharpening it in real time. While it takes a few seconds to get the hatchet battle ready again, it's probably Leon's most useful tool, and the most fun to use. Further, it really plays into the sort of person that Leon is now. He is much more methodical and grounded both emotionally and physically, and the sheer power behind a parry or an attack with the hatchet really plays into that. There's an argument to be had that Leon's gameplay sections are a little samey compared to the survival-focused sections that Grace is running through, and I totally hear that argument. But all told, that never really stopped me from having a great time playing as this new, hardened version of Leon who can still kick some serious ass and keep his sarcastic humor throughout it all.
Well, that's my cardio for the week.
Playing as Leon, you need to fight to protect those that need protecting. But more so, as both characters, you're fighting a ticking clock. Evident by the black blotches on his neck and on his hands, Leon has the same infection as those who have perished previously. All confirmed cases have ended the same way: death. Keenly aware of his situation, Leon knows that his time may be finally running out.
Leon, have you located Victor?
No, I lost him. Back to square one.
Not necessarily. Victor purchased a building after Umbrella went under. The Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center. I'll send you the address. Leon, we're running out of time.
As the game progresses, Leon and Grace cross paths at various points in the story. I found it very fun to play through sections of the game as Grace, avoiding enemies and using my wits to survive, and then coming through that same area as Leon and just mutilating all the enemies that had given me trouble previously. It's incredibly satisfying and a sort of reward for all the effort. Beyond the gameplay, Requiem's presentation is top tier. This is a game that understands how important atmosphere is to horror, and it commits to it fully. Visually, it all just works. It's not doing anything overly flashy or constantly trying to impress you with big spectacle moments, but the ones that are there do look incredible. A lot of the time, it's the lighting I found that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Shadows stretch across hallways, rooms feel just a little too dark in the corners, and you're never really getting a full, clean read on your surroundings. And that uncertainty goes a long way in a game like this, whether you're playing a creepy survival horror section as Grace, or if you're all in on the action as Leon. What I really liked is how much detail is packed into the environments too. Everything in this game feels intentional. You'll walk into a room and immediately get the sense that something happened here. Not because the game tells you that it did, but because of how it's staged. Scattered objects, damaged walls, little environmental cues, it all builds a story of what once was without spelling it out to you. The sound design, though, might be the best part of the whole package. It is really good. But it's not just loud scares or the realistic sounding firearms, it's the quieter stuff that sticks with you. The distant noises you can't quite place, the subtle movement in another room. It's the kind of audio that makes you stop playing for just a second just to make sure you actually heard what you thought you heard. I played most of Requiem with a pair of headphones, and I definitely recommend doing that if you can, because it really pulls you in a lot more. I also have to give props to the voice acting in Requiem as well. Angela Sant'Albano, who did the voice work for Grace, did an amazing job making her character come to life. There was genuine fear and uncertainty in her voice work, and it translated beautifully to Grace. Nick Apostolidis, who's been voicing Leon for a while now, absolutely nailed the sound and feel of a gruffer, older Leon who's tired and battle-weary. Every part of this experience came together near flawlessly, and I could not be happier with the end product. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about that is very important and special to me. When Requiem was announced, it was confirmed that players would be returning to Raccoon City. Raccoon City is special for a lot of Resident Evil fans, and it's the main setting of Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and it's a huge part of the overall story. Hell, it's a character in this story. After the events in the Spencer Mansion, the T-Virus spread throughout the city and started a chain of events that would change the course of history. For the characters involved, Raccoon City was the beginning for them. The place where they decided what sort of person they would become, and how they chose to fight the injustices brought about on humanity. Leon was one such person, doing everything he could to help people. It's why he joined the Raccoon City police force after all. I was excited to go back to where it all began, though I have to admit I was a bit worried. Would this part of the game be treated with care, or just used as pure nostalgia bait? I'm not going to spoil anything story-wise or gameplay-wise here, but I do want to talk about my feelings here, so indulge me for just a little bit as we return to the city that changed everything.
It's on you now.
While the Resident Evil series isn't really known for its deep and complex characters, Leon Kennedy's story is probably the most simple, yet pure, out of all the characters you encounter. In 1998, he was young, inexperienced, but really wanted to do right by people and make a difference. It certainly sounds cliché, but as Leon goes throughout his life, he never abandons that core ideal. After Raccoon City, he trained up and got stronger. He's always fought for what was right and helped those that needed protecting. He protected and looked out for people like Sherry Birkin, Ashley Graham, Helena Harper, and now Grace Ashcroft. Now, with time seemingly running out for him, we find ourselves back to where it all began. How would this make Leon feel after all these years? Would his past failures and setbacks as a rookie cop haunt him? Or would he find strength seeing his fight now come full circle? While I won't speak for Leon so you can find out for yourselves, I will speak for me. As a lifelong fan of the series and having been with Leon throughout all of his missions, I felt very emotional coming back to Raccoon City after all this time. I remember a point where I literally put down my controller and just held my breath as Leon stood still, waiting for me to move him again. The music that you're hearing right now softly played through my headset, and I honestly felt a tension in my chest build up. I honestly felt a little lump in my throat, not gonna lie. As a kid, I spent countless hours as Leon, surviving the Raccoon City outbreak over and over again on my original PlayStation. Standing still in this moment, I thought about those moments, but also further back, where I played the very first game with my stepdad and created a memory with him that I will cherish for the rest of my life. What I really like about how Requiem handles all of this is that it doesn't lean too hard on flashbacks or constant reminders. It trusts you to recognize these things on your own. There certainly is an argument to be had that Capcom went a little too all in on these sections, but I don't know if I agree. There was nothing here that interfered with the gameplay or the overall experience, and I felt it was all done with the fans in mind. And if you really want to get technical, I felt like it worked really well from Leon's perspective, as he remembered everything that happened that night and how it shaped him into the man that he is today, and why he's here, now. All so he can try and make a difference. Resident Evil Requiem ended up being a game that stuck with me more than I expected it would. When you look at it as a whole, it's doing a lot of things at once, which on the surface could be a detriment to the game for some, and I would totally understand that. But what stood out to me the most is how deliberately it leans into contrast. Not just in story, but in how you actually play the game. On one side, you've got Grace. Playing as her is exactly what you would expect from someone in her position. She's inexperienced, she's uncertain, and the gameplay reflects that in a really intentional way. Every encounter feels a little heavier. Every decision feels like it matters more than it probably should. You're not moving through the world like you own it, you're moving through it like you're trying to survive it, one step at a time. And then you have Leon. His gameplay leans into everything that he's been through. There's a confidence there that doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from experience. You can feel it in the way he moves now, how he handles himself in combat, how he reads a situation before it fully unfolds. Leon's seen enough of this world to know what's coming, even when it's trying to stay hidden. And while Grace and Leon are opposites in many ways, they complement each other as well. And when the end does come, both of them will need to lean on each other in order to survive this nightmare. By the end of it all, I walked away feeling like Requiem wasn't just trying to revisit Resident Evil's past, I felt like it was paying homage to it, while trying to push into a new era, and I absolutely loved that. I loved how it treated Raccoon City, not like a theme park of nostalgia, but like something that actually mattered. Something that still has weight to it. Something that still affects the people who went through it. Everything together is why Requiem hit me the way that it did. Because by the time the credits rolled, it didn't feel like I had played through another Resident Evil game. It truly felt like I had come back around to something that helped shape my life into what it is today. Resident Evil Requiem is not the perfect Resident Evil experience, and I am 100% fine with that. People are going to love parts of this game, and people are probably going to hate others. But for me, it's a direct link to my past and a reminder that even as time marches on, darkness doesn't have to win. I am here, now. And I will make a difference. And with that, we close the book on our 6th entry into the expedition log, my friends. This has been the Retro Wildlands expedition log number 6, Resident Evil Requiem. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. Before we put out the campfire and head our separate ways, don't forget to give the Retro Wildlands a follow on social media and make sure you subscribe to the show as well. Our website, theretrowildlands.com, is also the place you want to be for the latest content as well as our growing catalog of podcast episodes and blog entries. You can sign up for a free account on our website, which will give you the ability to leave comments on pretty much everything, and it's a great way to interact with me, the show, and the community. The Retro Wildlands is also part of the SuperPod Network, home of some other awesome video game podcasts and other gaming content, and you can check all of that out and more by heading over to superpodnetwork.com. Thank you all again for hanging out with me today. Now that the enormous task of putting together our last episode on Fatal Frame 2 is done, I am hoping to get back on track with episodes this year. Coming up next, I've decided to revisit an old PlayStation classic, which I happen to feature on our second ever podcast episode. That game is Parasite Eve. I'm excited to give this game the re-explored treatment and make the episode I've always wanted to, now that I have the audio editing skills to do it. Parasite Eve is one of those games that I think everyone should try, and even though there are some modern imitations on the horizon, I don't think anything will beat the original experience, at least for me. So be sure to keep an eye out for that episode coming soon. Is Parasite Eve worth your time today, or is it a failed PS1 experiment that's better left on your shelf to gather dust? Well, spoiler alert, it's amazing, so join me on our next expedition and I'll happily play this game with you so I can tell you all about it. Until then, my friends, my name is Nomad, and you can find me roaming the Retro Wildlands.